view of how to navigate in here to see the departments that we'll be looking at today. You should have your central budget entry up. If you go to advanced up here on the left corner and click that, I think we'll go ahead and do planning since they're so small. And you do 001 120.
I guess we could give a chart of
It's gonna pull up by count.
I know, but how do they know what's in here?
It's got it in here. I mean, you're talking about the department?
Yes.
I can give that to them. Okay. All right, and then you just click OK, and it's going to take you to planning's expenses. Now, over on the very left-hand side, there's add buttons, and then there's this like organizational looking icon. You can click on that image or whatever it is and look and see the breakdown for this total amount. And then if you want to view the detail on that one line item, you can go over to the right and click View Detail. And in here says Short-Term Disability. You can go to the next detail record by clicking Next, and you see that the long-term disability is $1,433. And then the next record, and I think that's it on that particular line item. And then you just click cancel because you really haven't done anything. You're just viewing. And then up at the top, you're going to hit return. Okay, and it just takes you back to the big screen, the main screen. There's also a little note over here to the left. Some of the supervisors, instead of putting in detailed, they put in notes.
What icon is that?
See over to the left, the little sticky note. It says View Notes. You can click on that, and it takes you into another screen that says Account Notes. So any account that has an organizational looking icon or a note beside it has some sort of detail in that account.
We want to start with the planning department.
You ready?
You? So you might need another chair, or actually, y'all.
Here, I'll scoot up.
Oh, okay.
I'll sit as councilman.
Jill can take you through, and y'all can look at this screen and IT, and we can get additional help to get y'all to maneuver through this, because there's a lot of information in here, and it's really just going to remain there for all future budgets, because even if we're thinking about something that's going to need to happen in 2 years, we're putting this in just for that institutional knowledge to remain. So.
And you also have your packets as well to follow along.
Jill, is there anything aside from that code that'll let you know that this is the planning department?
It doesn't.
Okay, so you just need to.
And I put on here that we're going to give you a chart of accounts.
Yeah, the orgs that you have to enter to pull up everybody's expenses.
Does it do revenue and everything, or is that a totally different?
Revenue, you just have to
I got you.
ask for revenue.
Yeah, it's printed out.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
There's no detail or anything on salaries because the planning department didn't ask for any new positions this year. So what you're seeing is just all the current salaries. There is a 3% worked into all salaries. So this salaries figure, the taxes and the retirement are just straight salaries as of right now with a 3% increase.
I gotta ask a question right off the bat. I mean, the budget has proposed 530,000 and our projected actuals are call it 393 or a 35% increase. How do you have a 35% increase if there's no changes?
The,
Unfilled positions?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's the unfilled.
Well,
we
wouldn't that
haven't-
have fallen into the 2019 projections?
They haven't been hired, no, because we changed all of that in, what month was it?
In May is when we had the
And we did-
revisions.
And we did the difference between that, not based on what was offered to Wayne before he left, when we compared, and we added 2 planners, a planning tech?
Well, we created Hunter's position.
Right.
Created Hunter's position, and then
yours.
and we gained an additional planner as well.
Right. Well, and then you backfill a planner
Correct.
as well.
Correct. And so we have new hires. We have new hires who are forthcoming as well.
Yes.
But a net 2 brand new positions.
And just for salaries, that's $148,000.
I can pull it up, it's actually more than that because you're promoting, but I'll get the spreadsheet that we originally used when creating all this. So again, this was, when I put it together, it was being compared on something that wasn't actually happening in 2019. It was based on a proposal, but let me bring it up and I'll
So with
also,
the-
I'm
with the
starting an
changes in
email.
that position, then you went back to the actual budget. So we made some changes,
Right.
though, a couple, month or two ago. And that number would have
It's gonna be
been,
full year.
that number would have been the 530 less
3%.
some money put in for raises and whatnot.
right, that's a full, you're seeing a full.
I'm
year.
starting an email too that just has the things that y'all are needing more information on, so I'm attaching this as well. But I will also. Planning. Get the most current one. Okay, so we went from a planning director with that amount that we were gonna, before Wayne left. And then we hired a new planning tech for, in the position, it was hiring a new planning tech, because that was backfilled, because we promoted someone to a city planner. And then we, created 2 new positions, so promoted you and hired you. And then we hired a new planner and then backfilling, I already said backfilling a planner, so it's more than.
As a couple,
Two. I mean,
a couple moving parts.
It's a lot
That's
of
right.
changes.
Yeah.
But the difference in what a full year of 2019 would have looked like with Wayne's role is $20,147 net with all benefits, higher than what we ended up changing it. I'm going to attach this again.
And also magnifies that gap, not only the infield position, but also hiring this year that kind of left a couple of nights unpaid.
Right.
So out of the bachelors.
Okay. Well, but the budget, though, still is what the budget was, so it didn't change that.
Damn computers. Just went blank.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah.
And
I
one
got
of the-
this, though. Go ahead, y'all go ahead. I got this.
Yeah, and what this is, you have your computers and try to follow as much as you can, but we definitely need to go over this more so you can do it on your own, so you can follow, Jill in this now.
I mean, if y'all just want to scroll down, and if there's any line item you want to discuss without.
Well, we can just go over it too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't think there's anything, other than the salaries that's increasing,
No.
like the mayor's discussed. I don't think there's really anything in planning that is
And
changing
we
that
need
much.
to go through each line item, or
Yeah,
is it
'cause-
just a
Yeah,
question
you
based?
can.
Because we essentially just covered costs. We
Right.
just
Right.
basically essentially covered costs and basically tried to make a good projection on natural escalation. So if, for example, if we noticed, we had one particular line item where we saw projected was going to be about $28,000, so we budget requested $30,000, just to reflect those natural escalations and try to cover costs.
You know, as far as the details go, nothing really jumps out at me other than I guess it goes back to salaries. And if you look at last year's budget and this year's budget, it's a 28% increase in one department. I mean, how do you maintain 28, 30, 35% increases in every department? I don't know how to sustain.
This department in particular was seriously understaffed, because even though we've been able to get some proactive work done and planning, it's been staffed pretty much the same as it has been since 2010. So this department needed that proactive help, and so that's going to be an added role for some of the people that are there, because they're splitting some of the planners.
And in fairness to you, Mayor, and Jill, if we could get, you know, it would be very helpful, is on that 2019 revised budget,
Right.
technically it should be not just what the revised budget was, but what we changed through the course of the year when you basically reorganize that department. That's the number we probably should compare to, and it won't look like that 28%.
Well,
Because we agreed to those. to that
Everything's a
reorganization.
snapshot when you're looking at a budget, and it's always changing.
sense.
And
Sure,
there's
sure.
departments that have exceeded expenses and it's been made up somewhere
Yeah.
else. But, I mean, all in all, and we'll explain why 2019 is showing a deficit. It's because of the accounting, I mean, the municipal way of reporting or doing accounting, because it was actually a transfer for paying off debt. But
I think when those changes incorporated into what, you know, and you have projected actuals, and sometimes you have positions that go unfilled for a while, but when you add back into those positions, those salaries to that, you know, because the budget is a living document, and if you got all the way down to, what, 6 weeks ago or 8 weeks ago, whenever those changes were made, that number actually will probably go up, and so the increase that I'm pointing out probably is not going to look nearly as severe. It'll just be fluctuations in expenses and salaries.
It reflects when the decision was made, not
Right.
this year.
Right.
And
Not a year ago.
Exactly.
It looks like it's coming.
And then
Yeah.
so,
Because
therefore,
at this
we
point, the
show it
people are hired.
reconciled.
Right.
I mean, you're not asking for any new positions, so the only way you'd lower that number is if you either didn't approve the 3% or if you removed somebody, so
Yeah.
that number is what it is.
Well, I will
Enjoy.
explain too that, you know, with every change above it, and there's amendments during the year too, knowing that it's a living document, I think it's just important to understand what's affecting the number, then go back and try to enter a bunch of stuff manually to see what it would be. I mean, we've done that for you to show apples and apples for the way we've
Sure. I
restructured
don't
the
disagree with that
budget.
either. I just-
Yeah.
So it's
but
really just
sometimes-
communicating what we do know.
Make a reconciliation.
Yeah.
We're very, very thankful to the council and the mayor for gaining that extra position. That's going to be a huge help, and so we're sincerely thankful for that. That's going to be a huge help on our workload and the ability to review cases and just deal with the day-to-day challenges of doing a planning department.
So, and it looks like one other, just to kind of harp on one other, there's really not any major expenses in your department. There's
No,
really
this
not.
is.
The only one is.
We're
the-
starting out with the
New car.
department
New
that
vehicle.
hardly
It
asks
did
for
get bought, and
anything.
it went down. Right.
We've gotten some software, IT, Mike,
Right.
if you look at IT, but that's across the board, because there's a lot of things that we're doing, and that's a totally separate overview in IT, but it's expensed out to each department. So that's gonna be an expense that has increased, you know, for very important reasons. One of them is just security, and because of what's happened to so many municipalities across the country and utilities. But there's other things too that we want to invest in that will save us long-term. And that's another discussion, but.
Well, let me stop you while you're ahead.
Mhm.
So, back to the vehicle, you had 62,000 budgeted last year. It looks like you didn't spend it. So you, not only did you put that back in for this year, but you actually reduced it by 19,000. Not, and I think I saw the detail in there.
Yes.
Correct. And so have one older vehicle, excess of 100,000 miles.
And I hope you have been watching Richard Johnson, who will come in and say, well, we budgeted this, but it came in 8,000 under.
Well, Richard leaves a.
We
Richard-
should've left 8,000.
I think Richard is part accountant.
Well, he is a mathematician.
He is a mathematician. He certainly is a mathematician. But what we've identified is a vehicle needs to be replaced. And we looked at a state bid list type vehicle, a bare bones vehicle, about $18,500. And so just in case that contract amount might change by the time a purchase can be made, to be conservative, we budgeted 20.
I don't see anything that needs changing in the planning department. That's pretty simple, basic.
I don't see anything,
Budget.
I'd like to see that number revised, just if you can spend 5 minutes. I mean, we're not spending much on this in here today, so if we can spend.
Well, what I'm attaching to this email that's going to go out after
okay.
this meeting is the planning department restructure. And then
Yeah,
that gives
that's it.
totals.
That's all you need.
And then I'm
Yeah.
also giving an Excel spreadsheet. This will help with all departments.
That's all
It
you
shows just since 2010 maybe, full-time employees in each department, year by year, just to give you an idea. So. And they don't have revenue, really, so start with simplicity.
That's right.
And it only gets worse from this, as far
So
as
with
detail.
Let in with the softball, right?
There we go. So,
I will say, on that details, it shows a F-150 of 20,000, but in the line, it shows 43,000.
And that's a good question there, Council.
Oh, yeah,
President.
that's like the
And-
plotter, the F-150 and the switches add up. to
Yes, sir.
43.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, that's vehicles and equipment.
Right.
Yes, sir, vehicles
I'm
and
hung up on
equipment,
that.
yes,
I'm
sir.
getting hung up on vehicles.
Yes, sir. And wide format plotters are definitely a big ticket item.
Yeah, no problem. I just see, I'm just gonna say C notes, so good.
And council, that wide format plotter serves all departments. It's a planning asset, but we use it for utilities, we use it for police and fire, and really anyone who needs it. So that's a valuable piece of equipment.
Also, in the general expenses, as we go to the more departments, has always been just a really big figure, and it's kind of hard to manage. So we've broken out a lot more because it's a munis. So we can find out that, because sometimes it's just a one-time expense. You know, so we're the general expenses, is general expenses? Okay. Those are going to have a lot more detail. So.
Yeah.
We're good. Everybody good? I'm not hearing any
I'm
questions,
good.
so I'm assuming, if I don't hear anything, I'm assuming that's kind of a, yeah, we're good.
Let's move to the next one.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor. Thank you, council.
Yes, absolutely. Kudos to Jill.
Indeed.
So if you want to go to advanced again, and y'all were handed out a piece of paper with the departments on it, and I think we'll start with rec. So 001250.
Aren't you really sad that this is your last budget presentation?
It is kind of sad, because I enjoy this.
Sure.
Okay.
I felt how hard.
Well, if you can top that last presentation, it was scheduled for an hour and a half, and it took 20 minutes. And
Oh, planning wasn't, was it? Right. Oh, yeah, that was 30 minutes or less is the top
Hour and a
one.
half.
Oh, is the top number.
It's the top number, sorry. So you look here.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right. Where's this at?
11.
And this one might not take an hour and a half, but there's a lot of departments.
It's all unusual.
So if we start with salaries, Tom, do you want to go through what you're asking for as far as the personnel?
Well, I mean, and also just the transition. So-
If you click on those positions, will that show you any? I mean, doesn't-
Yes, it does.
You have to go to load data.
If you go to, if you're on the salaries line, oh, let me get out of here. What do you have them individually pulled up, Jimmy? Does it look like my screen on the?
My eyesight's getting a little worse, I can't tell. No, ma'am.
Okay, so are you
Doesn't
right,
look
are you
that.
right here?
I'm there, and then I clicked on positions above that to see if that would load any positions for this particular department. Next to the accounts, right
No,
there.
go back to accounts and
Yeah,
just
I'm
go,
at
go
accounts.
over to the little, org chart looking picture.
Got it, and under salaries.
Mhm.
Got it.
And
Thank
then
you.
each one of these you can go into view detail.
Okay.
Okay. We'll just start at the top. An extra golf cart attendant, which is a part-time position, because if somebody's trying to take a couple days off or they call in sick or something, it creates quite a hardship on the crew out there because everyone's only allowed 19.75 hours. So just to have someone else on staff.
I didn't even know it was .75. I've always thought it was 19, so. I guess it's good to
Depends
know.
on who you talk to.
Oh, gotcha.
So, anyway, that's all that is, just to have someone else on the on-call list in case they're needed. And then in golf grounds, we're looking for another maintenance worker, just somebody to help keep up with the details. We've come a long way out there, and we continue to get better, and it takes personnel to do that.
I'm trying to find, like I said, is there a place I can find those positions?
Have you clicked
Are
on
they
that?
on the salaries?
On the far right.
Tom, the problem is we're on rec and you're going over golf positions, so let's just
Well, then,
concentrate.
okay.
You're
So
going
you-
down your list,
Right,
but
so you just want to go for
let's
rec.
just do rec right this
All right.
second, and then when we pull up golf, we can talk
All right.
about their positions.
All right.
Because I think that we'll have to go to a different department to see those things.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay.
I'm doing it the old-fashioned way on paper. So under Parks and Rec, we're just looking to put in a new budget for parks maintenance supervisor, somebody that's just going to be over the sports fields and the parks that we maintain, someone that's going to deal with all the leagues and making sure that all the maintenance is being done and everything's safe and orderly. And that's going to take some pressure off the Director of Recreation, because that's what I'm doing both jobs now, and it takes an awful lot of time. That's a full-time gig to satisfy all the leagues and take care of them and all the special events. So that's what I'm looking for there. And then Nate's, because of the growing need for new classes at the rec center, Nate's looking for a couple of group fitness instructors that just get paid hourly by the hours that they actually work. It's a flat hourly rate that they get. And then the lifeguard, all those additions are because the usage at the pool is going up considerably every year. We get busier and busier. We've got more groups that are wanting to come in with maybe 100 kids. Like right now, the Rotary Youth Club is wanting to be regulars throughout the summer at the swimming pool, and they'll bring 100 kids, and they don't bring any certified lifeguards with them. They mainly just bust the kids in, and so we need extra staff, a lot of extra staff for an extra 100 people just coming in.
And they'll pay their,
Yeah, they'll
the
pay-
admission.
Yeah, they're paying admission to come in, but just having that many extra people in the pools takes extra help. And then also, we need to step up our cleanliness, just around the pool, from the front door handles all the way to the back of the pool. We need to step that up. It's not getting ignored, but it's not what it should be. So we're asking for the 6 regular part-time people and 6 seasonal people that would just work during the summer months.
So if any of you are keeping up on paper, I'll kind of break that down for you. The budget, the new 1319345, it was previously budgeted 1187667. So the parks maintenance supervisor is 50K, the lifeguards was 49.4K. Fitness was 6.6K. And then the bulk of that is just total salaries, including, I guess, some amount of raise in there. Some plus up to that.
So you only got one new full-time position being added?
Correct.
And there'll be a transition for him moving, which would be less. So I think
Did you say the lifeguard was 49K?
Yeah, there's a
Five or
That's for,
six.
that's for 5.
Okay, that was my next question, how many?
But it's only just, it's seasonal too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's a 49.4 number, it says 5 part-time lifeguards, and then the next detail is a 24,000, it says 5 summer seasonal lifeguards and 5 part-time lifeguards. Is that a duplicate entry?
Well, it says they're gonna help
One's
cleaning.
seasonal and one's regular part-time, is that correct, Tom?
I'm sorry?
One of those entries is for part-time
I see it.
lifeguards, the
Yeah,
other
yeah,
one's
Yes, I
seasonal.
see that.
Okay.
Okay, so there's a 49.4 for 5, and then there's a 24 for 5 others.
And I think that would be the maximum amount because they're not all used at the same time.
No.
So, and some of them, yeah, so I think that number's gonna end up being high, but we'll keep it.
Okay.
Why such a large jump in medical insurance if we're only adding one new
It's-
full-time?
It's not the one person, medical insurance, and Ken can speak to that. Also, I do want y'all to know that I asked Jeff to sit up front, so if y'all have a question, he can help you also.
So the way the medical insurance actually has been done is as a department, as an employee in that department or spouse or family has claims, it's charged to that department.
Okay.
So budget-wise, it's hard for you to budget. So, the way I want to do it coming into the next year is that we're going to take what the recommended funding is, and we're going to charge to that department. We're going to give that money over to this other fund to pay the claims with. So then in budget-wise, you're not going to have these big swings.
Got it.
The money's going to be set aside.
By department.
By department.
By
You're not gonna
department.
force the claim
No.
Right.
on the
In other words, it'll
specific
be equally
individual.
split per.
Right, that makes a
employee.
lot more sense.
I mean, I just want to say that the way I set the county self-funded, and I mirrored City of Huntsville when I did that one too. And you just, you're funding, and you have a recommended funding of, a family coverage is, $1,300. You're charging that to that department, and then the money's being set aside. You may have, for you, so I put this money aside for me, that I may not have claims this year, but you have somebody else. It's easier to be able to put in this big pot of money and then you pay them out. So
And it skews
It
every
does,
department if
because
you're
you
going.
may have, somebody in general government, we have a bunch of claims there, and we have every year, and it's just harder, it's easier to manage. You move it into one fund every year. So what I budgeted, I took current employees, what the recommended funding rates are, and that's what I charge in every department.
And just in the beginning when I don't think that it was done that way before, maybe it was done that way
Mhm.
before,
It
okay?
was.
So,
It's just hard to budget that way.
right, exactly.
Yeah, it's budget, it looks like what I can tell is in the past was budgeted this way, but actual paying bills were not done this way. So, and what I've seen is it's very cumbersome the way we've been on the actual side of processing. I transfer money from general fund every week to pay it, then at the end of the month, we're reconciling, we're charging to each department, and you're having to go to look where each employee worked, and it's a lot of work, so I'm trying to simplify.
She's simplifying a lot of things.
Very good. Thank you for the explanation too.
Any questions, council, on this, as you look through everything?
Vehicle and equipment purchases, about 75. Let's see, all the way to the right. And that was, yeah, is this for that one here? Okay. Thank you. Okay, so capital improvements is,
We're rolling over the ADA bleachers.
That's actually in capital projects, but.
Oh, I thought we were saying,
well.
did you say
cap-
capital purchases or
Capital
capital?
improvements
Right.
is
Oh,
covers
gotcha,
things like
gotcha.
expanded tennis courts, the replaster of the indoor pool, the spray foam, the pool ceiling.
Jimmy, there's a lot of that stuff that didn't get done and was budgeted in 19 that Tom's just
carrying
rebudgeting.
over.
And when you look at the purchases V&E and the capital improvements, you almost have to add the two together to look at it as a whole. So if you look at the revised budget for 19 versus the 2020 budget, it's actually less.
When you add the previous 2 years.
When you add the two together?
Right.
Exactly.
Okay, so capital improvements.
And some of these are being paid out of impact fees. In 2019, Kim corrected the impact fee transfers to the general fund because most all of the things that were supposed to be paid out of impact were paid out of the general fund. That's just an FYI.
And somewhere we have impact fees that'll break that down and tell you guys what is being paid out of impact fees. It looks like the Pro Gator utility vehicle is the expansion of the tennis parking lot. Those two items, and then there's two other items that are over in the capital projects fund where impact fee can pay for those as well. And that, if you want to look at that on paper, you can turn to page 23 in your packet, and that's where it is.
At the ADA.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Tom, I'm gonna ask you, I see here in these capital improvements, you've got my bill to baseball fields west of the Dixie Field lights, but a zero amount there.
Right.
So you thought about it?
I was being overly ambitious on, what all I could afford this year. And so we got it priced out, and what good is a ball field without lights? So, I mean, they were, it was up there to $300,000 to build a couple baseball fields. And
Is that what the prices were with or without lights?
that's with lights. Because, if I built two ball fields without lights,
In there,
they'd go screaming. But, so, and really, not as busy as everybody is in the rec department and public works, it'd be tough to build those ourselves. We'd have to have somebody come in and do the dirt work, and we could do the final grading and we could lay the sod, but, with all the fence work and just all the dirt work that would have to be done, all clearing of all the trees and hauling all that off and
But is this two additional parks?
Two
Two additional?
fields.
Because we could take that out of impact if
Well,
we
there's-
decided to do it, but it would have to be contracted out.
Yeah,
it would have to be contracted out.
And there were, and Tom and I have had a lot of conversations about this that unfortunately everybody's not privy to. But there is a need, and I think, Jack, you were at one of the rec board meetings where we discussed this. There is a need for additional fields in the short term while we contemplate a bigger long-term rec plan for baseball and softball and all that. And so there's been some push from the the league board to get a field and get one or two done as soon as possible behind what used to be the Dixie Boy field, which is now the AU field. There's some challenges with that. There's space, but there are drainage issues, big time drainage issues there. And if you build two, you are encroaching onto your neighborhood buffer that you have behind that current Dixie Boy field.
There's a lot of challenges. I mean, that's.
That's in addition to cost.
The obvious property, but just, you know, the amount of trucks that would have to come and go down through there, how to get them down into that hole. You know, at some point, we'd have to, you know, cut a driveway in down through that hole, and then when we get 3 inches of rain one afternoon, there's nothing to stop that from being a real mess, and then having to rebuild the roadway, and there's a lot of challenges back there, and like Jay said, you know, we're getting back into that neighborhood buffer, and, because a lot of trees would have to come out to make 2 balls, even small ball fields happen. But I don't have another answer, and the league is pressuring me to get some more ball fields built, because last spring, we had 20-some teams in the T-ball league, and I think, you know, 18, 19 in the peanut league, and just, you know, that amount of teams in those 2 smaller leagues, it creates a bottleneck trying to get everybody practicing in games. You know, I've heard stories from parents where they would play on a Tuesday night and play their games, and they may not have another game until the following week on a Thursday night or a Saturday.
I think you heard that from me. Is that what my
I wasn't going to bring you up, but yeah, he was one of the parents. And that was, you know, but that's a truthful statement. You know, the kids don't get much playing time because there's just not the field space. And I think we're the only municipality in Baldwin County that plays on Saturdays. Everyone else is Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. You know, we have to play, you know, all day on Saturday, all day, from 8 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah, and that creates a whole other issue, complications with travel ball and travel teams and all that. You lose kids to that because they have to choose rec league or travel ball league because we play on Saturdays when everybody else has figured out a way to accommodate it otherwise.
Right.
So, you know, as I've told you before, you know, looking at property, we've just got a real problem.
We don't have a problem.
Well, we don't
It's
have a
about to be
problem.
solved. That's about to be solved.
Okay.
Well,
Excellent.
what we want to look at too is just people like that, you know, ball field complex, and, you know, if we look at some surrounding property to acquire, which I went over with some of y'all, that's just something, that's another reason why this is 0 and not deleted, is because these are things that can still be discussed. And also that would not affect the bottom line because most of it would be paid out of impact fees.
And I can promise you that the request is not going to stop coming because you've got a pretty adamant group of individuals that spend a lot of their waking hours at that ballpark, and these things are very important to them. I mean, I'm included in that group.
Is there any group in Croton that's not adamant?
I haven't found it, but they're passionate about different things.
They are.
This group is passionate about baseball, and I just, you know, having gone through that last year with the T-ball, and, you know, I think we did have 20 teams, maybe, close to it, and you would have, sometimes you'd have 16 days between games, and, you know, for 5 and 6-year-olds, that's tough, and they're just not getting, in my personal experience, or my personal opinion, the full experience that they should be getting.
Well, when we talk about the ballparks, because you said that would be resolved soon.
Yes.
This definitely needs to be communicated with everybody,
I'm telling
you know, because
Okay.
it's
I'll
something that.
I'll go over that at the end of today's meeting.
Right, I mean, it also needs to go with citizens, because this is something that, you know, I think we need to think about a bigger picture for our parks. You know, most cities have, you know, baseball, football, you know, the tennis, and they have all these things, and when we improved our soccer field, which was amazing, it's, you know, do we want to just keep up with our demand or build the very best in our region? It depends on what we're trying to accomplish too. And I think we also have an opportunity with impact fees to think about what does nobody, none of our neighbors have? You know, a big outdoor pool, you know, with a lot of recreational stuff outside. Nobody has that in our area, and that would also serve a lot of citizens.
Yeah.
So it's not that, we want the best of everything, but ball fields also too, we can do this in a transition that there's a lot of property around the rec center and kind of keep it close by. So I just think it really needs a bigger conversation and a formal citizen engagement process.
It does need a bigger conversation and plan all this out step by step. It's really important that we not
Right.
move too fast in one area and then go back 5 years from now and say, boy, we should have done this.
Let's get back to the numbers that we have in front of us. What is the upgrade to HVAC controls again? It said it was a 2019 rollover. Remind me what that was?
You know, it's a Lance question, but, because he's the one that put that in there. There's, he's always looking for energy efficiency.
Can we start off with what building is this in?
This is at the rec center, I'm sorry, Recreation Center.
All right.
Yeah, that was left out, but that is the rec center. But he thinks it would be that much more efficient with these other controls that, you know, sniff the temperature, test the temperature or whatever, and run things more automatically. And
Just like in the pool area and things like that? Or?
This is a recreation center itself.
Okay.
Throughout, you know, the meeting rooms and the exercise rooms and walking tracks and everything. It's a complicated system, because all the different zones that are there and the ventilation and everything. So it's something that Lance is just, I don't think he had time to get to it this year.
Right. I mean, that's why I asked, because, you know, $40,000, and that didn't say for new HVAC, it said for new HVAC controls.
Yeah, and, you know, everything's in pretty good shape up there. We've even replaced a couple of units in the old gym over the last few years. But this system he's talking about would better control everything. And timers on it, so when somebody's not there, it wouldn't have to be set at 68. It could go up to 72 for the evening when nobody's there, and start cooling back down as they show up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Was it 20,000 last year?
30, I thought.
There's a note
It
that
says it goes
says
up- it went up
added
by-
$20.
it went up by $20.
I don't think that's accurate.
I figured that must have been 20,000 is what I was
me
thinking
too.
it was. But
I just added a K
it
to
went
the
up
back of
10,000.
it. Is it just 10, Tom?
I should have thought it was $30,000 last year, but it could have been 20,000.
I'll check it,
He's not
and if
here.
it's different, I'll make the note.
Well, and this is why when we put these in the budget, I'll go back and say, this is why I believe the council likes to have another bite at the apple. So when it does come back, you know, we got another opportunity. If we want to stop it, we stop it. If we want it to get, if it goes up, we can pay it.
Utilities for city use, I forget, was that just a rate that we assigned for a city rate, and then we just charged across departments?
I want to explain that, because this
Okay.
is another thing of just detail as we try to distribute expenses fairly. But there was an ordinance that council passed, I'm not sure when, it's a long time ago, that put into effect what the city would pay for each utility. Well, I don't think the council knew at the time that it didn't matter what they said the city was going to pay, because the utilities paid it anyway. And then we found out this year that it's actually residential rates. So with 4 utilities, that what we really need to charge is for water and sewer, it should be just the cost of service. And we have a cost of service study coming, and we'll have more accurate figures. And then for gas and electric, it needs to be the wholesale cost of the product plus the cost of service. And last year, this budget included residential rates. So again, we're just fine tuning it little by little. We have reduced the utility rate some, a conservative amount, but I think it will be reduced more when it comes to actual expenses once we get the study done.
So is there an actual transfer of funds then?
No, it
Expense.
gets, yeah, it just gets expensed. And it's built into our utility billing system, so, and that's how it hits each individual department.
Any other questions or comments on this Parks and Rec 001250?
I think it's mostly stuff in the capital improvement that we have to do.
I mean, I don't know that, the only thing that I can possibly pick on is that supervisor position, and I don't know that I want to go there.
Oh, you're losing someone with how many years?
21.
21 years, but, I mean, the department, the way it's structured right now, it is our biggest department, because it includes golf and a marina. So
Tennis, rec
it's
center,
just,
pools.
when the Auburn study, just the initial, when they look at the big organizational chart, you have, well, she said 5, but really we have 4 big divisions. And in those 4 big divisions, there needs to be a director and an assistant director. That's just your typical structure. Public Works has that. But Utilities needs it, Police, and Parks and Rec. And those are the 4 departments that really, that's the proper structure for the whole thing. So, and then in each individual department, we've got the structure.
It just seems like we're hiring a lot of managerial type positions. I see.
I think
us-
you just need to look
I see
to
us
other cities.
Every department, every time we add positions, it seems to be, managerial. And I guess that's the part I question.
It's not just managerial, but when you haven't grown full-time employees since 2010, and you have 44% growth from 2010 to 2018, these are the things that you have to look at, because each department has become a very, very big, well, for utilities and enterprise, but for each one of these, I mean, there's just, the director is focusing on the bigger picture, the planning of the future, and communicating with the assistants, really facilitating it all. So if you have it in Public Works, and it's smaller than Parks and Recs.
This position that I'm asking for is just to take some pressure off the Director of Recreation. This position will still be, it's going to be a hands-on, somebody who still works for a living, not strictly managerial. They'll just be responsible to make sure that the leagues stay happy, all the communication that goes on with them and all the scheduling that goes on with them, make sure that all the maintenance is being done properly at all the parks, the sports parks and the other parks that we maintain, but still be a working person and not just sit behind a desk of any kind of manager. But it's going to take pressure off, because I've been trying to do that job, plus help out with marina and tennis and golf and be of help and back them up and try to help them solve problems and just try to keep everybody, moving in the right direction with the growth and everything. But, somebody needs to take that off my back just to be over the parks, because I spend a lot of time in communication with all the leagues and all the scheduling and making sure that everyone's doing their job, and the maintenance that's what that position's for. It's going to still be a hands-on.
I'll put together the net,
hands-on.
the net
That's kinda
change.
what I was looking at.
Also.
That's what it is.
'Cause
It's like Tomas at the tennis center. He's a manager. He works. He gets his hands dirty. He's out there, cleaning the courts and cleaning the courts. And Sean down at the marina does the same thing. He's a hands-on guy. He's fixing piers and doing repairs around there every day. And it's the same with, Jeff Williams, Jeff Marks. Everybody's a working manager.
Well, you explained it, yeah, that's good. Anybody
But
else?
what I'll also include in this email is the net change, because Tom's retiring. There will be another person that moves into his position. And then this is the only person that you've added that's in the managerial realm.
Right, yeah.
So it won't be a significant change.
It's not, you know, and I just gotta ask the question, it's not overly, I mean, the budget's 9.7% increased over last year. I don't think that's sustainable for 20 years, but it's sustainable for a year.
Well, the expenses
Carry
and
on.
revenue, you know, have increased, again, because the expenses are showing by a department. But if y'all remember, if we continued to report the way it used to, the city would have a $4 million surplus. So what that shows is how drastically we've reduced our overall expenses after taking over all of the city operating expenses.
Well, I'm not actually seeing, you said it, revenue for Parks and Rec is actually down by a tiny fraction for
Right.
2018 and down by more than 10% from 2017.
But the expenses, that's
How
what
do
I'm
we-
saying, is
how do we
that
treat
the
that?
the expenses like utilities, all kinds of operating expenses that utilities used to pay, we're now covering those expenses. So,
Well, I was
The
just
reality
talking,
is
I was
is-
just talking revenue.
oh, I know, it all goes together, because, like I said, if we were at a $4 million surplus, and it would have been a misguided surplus, I mean, it wouldn't be real, and we thought we could spend that, then we would just be, you know, really operating way outside of our budget. So you got to look at it as a whole. Parks and Recs are really just surface. We try to break even, but the quality of service is what we want to maintain.
Well, if I'm comparing apples to apples, though, just for example, Jay, to answer your question, if you look just at memberships, rec department memberships and passes from 2017, we had a revenue of $341,000, and projected this year's $297,000. That's a $44,000.
And that's what Tom was telling me,
Right.
just local competition moving
Right.
in.
It's local competition, but we're also going to move into, well, at least look at doing auto pay.
Auto draft. and
Auto draft.
Things like that, yeah.
And we are still talking to Thomas Hospital about their desire to, you know, move all of their space that was for rec and everyday workouts to strictly rehab and partner with us. That would not only increase our customer base, it would also, it would be a partnership, so they can bring experience that we don't have. It would be good for everybody. We share the same citizens, so.
Yeah, so like on that revenue shortfall, what I would like to know, and you don't even have to answer this right now, we don't have to get into this in this discussion, but just if you can say it shortly, or if you want to think about it, what can we do to improve our position in the competition so that we don't have that loss of revenue, so that we gain market share back?
Nate's working hard on, some of these new fitness instructors. We're gonna bring more classes in.
So that $600 we think may bring people, that's one investment in trying to.
No, that's really what we're working on. When you go to some of these other businesses and they charge, some of these are nationwide outfits that work in volume. So they charge very little per month. And so if we've got people that are just using our exercise equipment, obviously they're gonna go there, and spend less money every month. So we're trying to entice these people to stick around and offer them more classes. Right now we've got Zumbas, we've got boot camps, we've got Pilates, we've got yogas. I know there's more classes, but we can, we think by adding more classes and we just started a new class, the bar class, which has nothing to do with drinking, I'm told. But it's something brand new. It's
Okay.
So we're working on doing just that, increasing our revenues.
Never heard anybody like yoga plural, yogas.
Well,
Oh, yes.
because we do have different
Some
yoga
yogas.
classes.
Yo guys.
There's other yoga classes. So.
Questions or recommendations, council? Anybody? So, in an effort to wrap up just this portion of Parks and Recreation, Am I hearing then, we don't need to make any edits to that?
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm hearing? I'm kind of hearing that. Okay. You taking notes, Jill?
Yes.
Would you like for us to add 7 or 8 edits?
No, there were no edits to planning either, correct?
There were no edits to plan.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, do we want to look at the marina next?
I wish we would. Can we do that?
Sure.
That number is...
If y'all want to go into
Well,
advanced
00,
again, it's 001340.
I don't know nothing about that computer. Well, these just say 12.
Witness
Oh,
is-
yeah, sorry.
How about say go to page 12 then for you?
Yeah,
There you go.
I got mine marked by tab.
You tab me?
Mm-hmm.
Can I send mine home with you?
Do the same thing.
Get Karen to put tabs on for me?
I will mention just briefly, we have not put this in the budget projection, because we're just keeping it conservative, but the fuel dock at the Grand has closed, and there's a lot of people who bought their fuel exclusively from that location, and we will be gaining that. I don't know exactly how much yet, but
It's awful.
yeah. So we'll have to plan for capacity and whatnot, but I mean, you stay way on top of it. But what's in the budget is just based on, it does not consider that.
We can do all revenues separately,
Did I do something
Yes,
on top of
we will. And that's on the,
different
yeah.
it? Okay, yeah, that's where I'm at, right?
schedule.
What am I seeing?
340.
2019. Do I have that right? Is that one right? 10?
001340.
Yeah.
Scroll up.
Right down a little bit.
Can we talk about personnel to Marina first?
Sure.
Okay. So right now, we have Sean who manages, and then we've got Chris who is a full-time employee down there. And we have open positions for 2 part-time people, and one of those positions is filled with a part-time worker. What we'd really like to do is drop one of those part-time positions and make our part-time position a full-time. At 19 hours a week, spread out over a week's time, it's kind of tough to get any real a lot of manual labor done, I'll say. The guy we have down there does a great job. He stays busy for his 19 hours a week, but there's so much more that Sean and him could partner in doing, and that's doing a lot of the pier repairs and getting all the mowing done and just generally cleaning the place up. And the 2 of them actually redid G-Dock out there along the canal exit in the marina, and they did that, and there's just a lot of that kind of stuff that could be done with a full-time position.
Would you eliminate both of the part-times and consolidate them into one full-time?
Part-times
Okay.
and make it a single full-time position.
Okay.
And part-time people, you have to, it's tough to keep good part-time help because it has to fit their life. They have to be semi-retired or just want to keep busy after another job. And it really has to fit their life. And a lot of times, a part-time job is just a stepping stone until they get a full-time gig somewhere else. And so it's, the amount of turnover that we've had down there is not due to anything other than it's just a stepping stone. They're going to take that part-time job till something else comes along. Part-time job is not a career for everybody. We're fortunate at the recreation center with some good part-time people that have been there forever, but they're semi-retired. It fits into their lifestyle. But we just hadn't found any long-term employees down there yet that want to work part-time. So we're asking to drop.
And it is getting a lot more active. I mean, with the fuel dock and that increasing, and I think it will start really increasing. It's very hard to do the maintenance work and everything you have to have because you're interacting with so many people.
Oh,
So
yeah, it does stay busy down there. And there's enough to do to keep 3 full-time people busy, more than enough to do.
And that $17,000 increase, it is worked into the lump sum salaries figure of 128. It just wasn't itemized separately because it's just really moving one person from part-time to full-time, but it is in the 128.
That number doesn't really, it doesn't call a lot of attention to itself. What does call a lot of attention to itself is the net income or loss of $463,000, which is an additional loss of $217,000 over what's predicted this year. How does that happen? Are we sure we've got the right revenue projections with the, say, the gas and oil expense? Does that equate to the right
What?
incomes? And I mean, that just,
Yeah. And like Mayor said, we didn't realize at the time about the grand, so those marina fuel income, it's going to probably be a lot higher than $235,000.
but your gas and oil expense would be higher as well. I'm just
Right.
wondering, do those two add up? I mean, are you showing the correct profit margin?
This is
I'm just trying to find, I
210.
just don't see where it's at
This is
anywhere else where it could be. And
This is
that's an
210.
additional
This
$217,000
diesel is 210. This is
loss.
235.
Purchase of equipment, you got $100,000 dredge.
You got $100,000 there.
Yeah, 50,000 more in
So
fuel.
we're saying.
And that's one I'm wondering, is that
Mhm.
right? Because that ought to take care of itself, and then some.
Well, it's the general maintenance, and that, it's one of those things that, these, I wouldn't say these are general maintenance.
Well,
These
that went
are
down by 37,000.
big-time repairs.
General
You know what I
supplies
mean?
went up by
Because there's so
30,000.
much to do and invest in that. Really, I think they should have been capital projects.
I think
A
so
lot
too,
of them.
Mayor, but I mean, the general maintenance actually is going down by
Yeah,
37,000,
so
so that's not contributing to the additional
Right,
$217,000
but I don't,
loss.
we have to just look and see what makes up those figures.
I mean, I see the oil is 50,000, which I'd say that should have taken care of itself in revenue, and then some, so that wouldn't contribute to it. I see purchases of vehicle and equipment that went up by 103,000.
Well, and that we can rethink or
Yeah,
not.
what do you
That's
do with that?
basically.
That's the dredge. That's a used dredge.
We have an opportunity to purchase
You
a
wanna,
used dredge
Yes.
just for the slips,
We
and
even scanned
the
in the
cost of
document.
doing it one time would pay for the dredge.
I hear you.
We could put more thought into it, but this is just something that, and we could probably rent it to our neighbors as well, but, I don't know, I mean, that's just something we put, but that is $80,000.
I got you.
You got a quote for
That's
$250,000.
I got a budgetary quote of $250,000 to dredge that basin. With our own dredge, using, especially if I can have Stacy full-time, we'd be able to use a couple days a week and operate the dredge ourselves once the permitting's in place, and hopefully get all that stuff taken care
You
of.
could dredge the marina out there on the pier.
And it could be used out on the pier.
Mm.
And it could be used to rent to the Grand Hotel, the Yacht Club, Fly Creek Marina.
I don't know if you can rent it out.
I don't know how it works renting stuff out.
Yeah, that's
Somebody
really,
else.
that's
Yeah, I was
not as
thinking
easily
that that's-
done, renting city equipment.
Right, I think it's just the local stuff, I mean.
Unless you
know,
make
just
it
as a team.
available to everybody, you can't make it
Right.
available to one.
Right, but, you know, just to have it down there at the marina, we've got several slips down there that are unusable right now because of the silting in. So, you know, we were able to keep all that maintained and keep everything else in deep water. And then, like Sean said, you know, a couple days a week here or there is all we can schedule to do that. It can be done with in-house personnel. And then, like you said, you know, it can be taken down to the city-owned marina at the pier.
I think you sold yourself short on the income here, and the difference is that 100,000 is what I think they have that. Why that number doesn't look as good as it should, because I would have thought with fuel sales increasing, our deficits narrowed, not large and
Well, we
larger.
still
Did I
have,
just say that? Not increased.
we still have the bulkhead
Y'all
to
forgive me.
Yeah.
do, but that's a capital project.
That's in capital projects fund.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's still taking a good amount of money of maintenance and upgrades to get it where it needs to be.
Absolutely.
Do we think we're still another 2 years away from making it a profitable venture, something where we're actually at least breaking even? Because
I'd like to look at the other things that make up the general maintenance.
That was the dredging. The dredging to H and
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, I
M and
do
N.
think that, I mean,
M
it's
and
gonna.
N is in there.
Look, I think the only other investment would be, this is really to kind of fix what we have to a certain standard. But the other investment that we've talked about is, of course, the dry storage. That would be more of a, just again, an investment into serving our citizens with that type of demand.
If the council doesn't want to go in the direction of dry storage, then the only other way to make that profitable down there is to continue to improve the overall look of the place and improve the piers and the slips and make it a more desirable place to bring your boat and rent a slip from us, and we can actually go up in our rates.
Our
And,
rental
if you
is
pull in and you've got a first-class looking marina, it doesn't offer a boat yard or anything like that. We have to offer the aesthetics and the service and, in a prime place to keep your boat and piers, nice piers, walkable piers, and safe and attractive bulkheads. That's the only other way to make any money down there is to put a whole new face on that thing.
And I think too, you just have to think about the alternative of what we had before. We weren't really making any money, but every
We weren't
year
losing
it
half a
was
million.
losing, it was like just going down the tubes as far as, you know,
The
being a clean
appearance, I
marina
agree.
and then just letting everything kind of fall apart. So, and I think we're, based on it still being fairly new, we've accomplished a lot and invested a lot, all of it, without borrowing any money.
I mean,
But
I'm
we
on
just have to
board
think
with-
about the future and what we want
Right.
to invest in it.
And I'm on board with the fact that we had a lot of repairs, still have repairs that we have to make to have it, top notch. But I just want to make sure that at the end game, that we've got our expenses to the point where we're at least breaking even, maybe making a profit, because the whole idea was, we got to take this back because we're only getting, it's going down in,
Well, it was
in
just
appearance, but we're also only getting
going to just disappear. I mean, it's
small
an
amount of
asset
money,
that
but,
would have been no longer. I mean,
right.
if you don't take care of the dredging and the different things, I mean,
It would have just
you might
silted
not
in.
even have a
Yeah.
Black Creek to go out into the bay. So,
I can warm up to a dredge at that
I've got-
cost.
I've got-
But we have another bite at it too, like
I
I
mean,
said,
and that
that's
to
the
me
beauty of the way we
is,
did
it's
the
in
budget.
there. I think it still needs a little bit more discussion. But
I've got one question. We got in this particular budget in general maintenance for $275,000 is primarily dredging. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And also to purchase a dredge so that we can eliminate that money.
Right.
Correct.
So is it
So-
either or?
It's an either or.
I know, but we
I mean,
need
but
to.
if you spend
delete
108,
one
we
of
can
them.
eliminate the 275. I mean, that in itself says do it.
Well, it's two, I think it should be 250.
Well, whatever,
out of
yeah,
that.
I'm just using that number, I'm not saying all of it's going towards dredging.
Either way, the number goes down.
This
by
number
100.
Yeah,
has the dredging.
point of it is.
This
uh,
number
that- that's
has the
that-
312.
That's this year, you have this for every year, because I can
Yeah,
assure
we
you.
didn't.
We
you
did
have to
dredge.
You have to do
We
some
did
form of
for
dredging pretty much every
And
2
it was
years
charged to general maintenance.
along that coast. So,
Yeah.
yeah, what I'm getting at is if you bought the dredge,
Or net of 150.
like right now, as soon as the budget was passed,
We're,
we bought
we're
it,
pulling up the details of what's in
we could
that.
eliminate the 275 and we do it ourselves.
Well, 250, 25 of it is for
250.
other.
I'll use
Right.
that.
Well, we did go through
Dredging of the main basin.
the initial budget
There you
was,
Yeah,
this
if you
is
look up there,
everything,
250 is for
including the
dredging.
things.
So,
And so the operator of the dredge is in here?
Well, it would be the full-time person, right?
Right.
Yeah, myself and my.
Okay, so how many full-time people would that make it?
Be 3 full-time people total.
And that would be
But you have 2 now.
2 full-time now, and 2 part-time positions.
Right. And then you'd have 3, and then, and this dredge can run wintertime, I'm assuming, be a great time to dredge, right?
Yeah, so the water's low.
Theoretically, the only thing that slow this dredge down is obtaining the permits. Once you get the permits, you can do anything you want to do with this dredge, anytime you want to do it.
Yeah, we gotta do the.
I think these numbers are better than what's shown here. I really do.
well, and we can
That would certainly be
eliminate
better. You've got
this
the
dredging of
250.
the main basin, right, of 250.
I think the fuel's
Yeah,
off 250.
Yeah.
Thank
I think it's off
you.
about 300,000 at least.
Well, let's do it now.
Okay. So, do we want to purchase the dredge and eliminate
I would
this
vote
two
for
fifty?
putting that in and eliminating the 250.
I would
Okay.
too.
Right, and the,
So
most of the
leave your-
budget though is.
Leave your purchases.
Right.
Vehicles is the same.
Of 108.
And the general maintenance should go down to, I don't know, guys,
25,000.
Yeah.
Is there still some costs with
Yeah,
having to
there's
do
some
the
costs. I
spoils
mean,
and stuff like
I'd
that?
feel like 50 maybe.
Yeah, like knock 200 off of it
We
instead
gotta
of
continue,
250?
we gotta make improvements to the bulkheads to continue to get the revenue raised there.
That money on top of the dredging of the basin that I put in there was for almost completely rebuilding a lot of the finger piers around the marina. There's a lot of those finger piers in bad condition, and we want to try and shuffle some of the finger piers over, change the layout slightly, just to make better use of the basin and have it look a little bit nicer.
And guys, like I said, we can always, when it comes back before us, we can always
I think we need to
change
budget
it.
though,
That's,
whatever the difference is of the finger pier maintenance and things like that, you need to have that in the budget by
so
itself.
that right there changed the bottom line
And
about
then-
$225,000.
It's only two items.
And I think the fuel, I think we're
662,
very
yeah.
conservative on the revenues. I think that's gonna, I don't wanna necessarily change it, but I think we're gonna be, maybe not
Yeah,
as much
that's
as
the main thing,
50K
when
will
we
be
talked
good
about
there.
the.
Right, and I took 200 out.
Yeah, I think
So
that makes
it
the most
became
sense.
662, 545.
What does that come down to? What's the net?
Well, the total expenditures
200.
now are 662, 545.
Well, I think you probably just put in-
So,
and there was a
The
detail.
loss is now 263, 345.
And, you know, so the only real added expense is just gonna be
345.
It's not gonna add up to a whole lot.
I know, but
You can buy
the
a
cost
service.
of dredging
Oh,
was still in
You
there.
got a lot of fuel to get.
So,
well.
Getting there, but it'll take a few
you put
years.
that- You left that in there so they would have, they would have control.
Right, but we can't balance the budget
I understand.
without that, so we've got to
Drop
have
it down,
communication of, this is what I want, if it's cut, then this is the cost that
210.
it will be, that's what we have to show. Otherwise, we would be, I mean, we literally are at $13,000 right now.
160,000, yeah? Something
For a
like that.
balanced budget, so,
It's,
you know, it makes a
And that's
difference.
more in line, that bottom figure's much
Yeah,
more in
and
line.
I really think that marina fuel income is very conservative.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Mhm, Absolutely.
Really,
Even
all the
compared to your
budgets.
cost of fuel, I think that's conservative. That's probably based on formula.
On a recent weekend, the question was asked of everyone who bought fuel, where they came from, and I think 11 sales came from the Grand Hotel, that, or one weekend.
Is there anybody, do we still, and I don't want us to look like a great big gas station with giant numbers, but I still would recommend a sign down there, saying fuel available and maybe some hours. And I really want us to consider, maybe credit card sales after hours.
I mean, I think the credit card sales might work, but I think the
One
sign.
One problem with that is you're
is-
dispensing the gas yourself, and that's
Oh,
a
okay.
problem in that bay,
Responsible
in that
employee
creek.
there,
Gotcha.
and something were to happen.
Okay?
I was at a gas station in Destin a couple of years ago with my car,
Okay.
and I stuck those in there, and I went, turned around, and I flipped the handle, and the valve broke up there. And it, just blew, I mean, it was blowing.
And what
through.
about later hours in the summer?
Well, we could look at that, but, I
I mean, I think it's worth
We do run later
paying
hours
some
in the
extra
summer.
hours in the summer for the additional fuel sales, because, let me just give you an example. I went fishing this summer with a buddy who keeps his boat at the yacht club. We came in, we cleaned the fish, it was whatever time it was, he goes, I need to gas up because I'm going again in the morning. He couldn't buy it because it wasn't open. And it would, just by a couple of hours, and that's just one example, of course, but I think that example's played out numerous times a
But you
day.
never satisfy everyone, because, you come in, you get your fish cleaned, you clean your boat up, it's 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, I'm gonna go out in the morning, I need fuel.
Yeah, no.
But.
This was
if-
afternoon, this
if-
was in the afternoon.
Okay, but if somebody plans ahead, we do have the option, we can call 24 hours ahead of time, and we will have.
Well, they need to know that, because say, this was a Saturday, what time do you close on Saturday?
Fuel dock closes at 4, and I'm in the office till 5.
Right, so the fuel dock closed at 4 o'clock on a Saturday.
Yeah.
4 o'clock's not a late time on a
It's not.
Saturday in the summertime when it gets dark at 8.
I called the number when I got down there, And Sean answered the phone, and he came and opened up the fuel at about 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Well, if there's a
John.
way, yeah, thank you for that. I mean, that's great service. I don't know, you know, you should
It's
be
like
compensated for your
24/7.
time. Well, you need to be compensated
He's
for your
on call,
time.
and it's
That's
at
not
midnight.
fair for you to
I'm
be on
kidding.
call and have to go down there, but I think in the summertime, you ought to be able to get fuel till about maybe 6 or something reasonable.
Well, I tell you, I'm very passionate about what I do down there. I
And he didn't know
love
it was
that
me
marina.
coming to get gas.
Yeah.
Sure, he said, this
I
is
did not,
Councilman
it just
Robert
worked
Brown.
out.
I'll be there in an
But
hour.
I do tell
He
all
was at the
kinds of
marina,
people,
wasn't
anybody that has ever questioned the hours, I tell them, call the marina office, and we've got the number plastered all over the building,
Okay.
and leave a voicemail. That voicemail goes directly to my email, which I get on my phone. And if I'm anywhere around there, I go down there and open up the fuel docks. I went down there at 6:45 about 2 weeks ago. I came out of the gym, had a voicemail, somebody needed fuel. I headed straight from the rec center, straight back down to the marina, got the keys and got it open.
Well, I don't think that's necessarily fair to you, though. I'm saying if we had to pay somebody part-time on the weekends during snapper season,
So-
I think we could sell a lot.
So our recommendation would be to take the 2 part-time positions, get rid of one, get us a full-time guy, and keep one part-time position, and next summer we'll hire some seasonal
Or
help.
why don't you just, instead of, do the full-time person, instead of the 2 part-time, and then have a seasonal person?
Have a seasonal person.
Yeah.
Oh, seasonal. Just
Right.
regular.
Just
Just for the
seasonal.
summer.
Seasonal person, okay.
And that won't matter the time per week, it's just the high point of when you have
No,
those.
and then we'll figure out some hours.
Seasonal, we get Reed back down there.
You know, come to council.
And that's a great
Some-
job for a
some
kid,
College
I mean,
seasonal
like a high
hours.
school kid.
You
Reed
get
and
high
Jack,
school kids as dock hands down there. working summer.
A mature,
Just
responsible,
if they're doing nothing
good.
but-
We need to figure out how to do it like
Kid.
the big companies do, and have internships, so they don't pay them anything. Learn how to dispense gas.
So,
Sounds
all
like a
right,
hot
council, so
job.
wrapping that up, on the 100134, I'm hearing we made some changes and we're all pretty satisfied where we're at on that? You got them, right?
I do.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Get out of here. You see.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Okay.
Sean?
Judge, I said that,
Thank you, Jay.
we're working at ballpark.
Golf?
We doing golf?
Yay!
Yeah, y'all come up.
So for golf, there's operations, is it only,
Maintenance.
13 and 14,
They
pages
are all-
13 and
okay.
14. And
so
if-
all of that's on 13 or 14?
Yeah,
I don't need
let's
to go anywhere else?
do clubhouse first. So in the Munis system, it's 001500.
Okay. And so, well, obviously Browns doesn't have any revenue, so that's page 13?
13 and, 13 for clubhouse.
001-500?
Mm-hmm.
And then the next would be
001
001-550?
550, that's right.
Hang on, do it.
Good back there.
You know, password.
So we're doing golf grounds first?
Golf clubhouse.
Operations, it's called, to our clubhouse or operations, and we'll put clubhouse on there too, just to be consistent. Page 13, Kevin.
That's it. Come on.
You're just asking for one part-time card attendant, Jeff.
I
You want
am.
to explain that to them again?
Sure, yeah, I'd be happy to. Same situation as last year. Most of, not most, actually, all of my card attendants are between 70 and 80 years of age. They're passionate, they love their job, they've been there long-term, most all. And, you know, with older gentlemen, sometimes they take ill, they take vacations, they're away from the club at times, and for us, it's a little bit hard to cover because everyone is pretty much maxed out at 19 hours per week. So we have to pull from either myself or the pro shop or marshals at times to help with the cards, and just having one person work maybe 12 hours a week would be a huge help to me.
last year's budget was 428 and change, and this year's budget's 411, so it's actually going down according to.
We only spent 293 last year, so it was probably the timing of some hires and stuff.
Yeah, certainly.
And that-
316.
316.
That 428, I believe, was high also. That
Was it?
budget figure was high.
It is a little
2019
bit high.
actual.
And, you know, we run lean and mean down there. We're running about 75% of the proposed.
Or is that, is the actual meaning that we haven't finished the final month, is that?
No, that's projected through the remainder of the year.
Well, there's a projection
Based on
and
the
an actual.
2018.
Projected means you just had vacancies throughout the year, so they didn't reach the full potentials. And
Right.
So the actual is the one that's projected through the
Yes.
year. And the projected was what was projected at the beginning.
Well, the 2009 projected actuals, it's counting for
The additional month to
the,
put this together.
exactly.
it's only saying
Or
that
6
they don't
weeks,
have
depending
12
on-
months
Right.
of complete data. They had to maybe project for the last month or
Right, so
two.
what I'm saying, the 293 for golf salaries is where we're at as of September 4th, or that's what we think we're gonna be at the end of September?
It's by the,
293.
all of it's end of the year.
Yeah, well, there's
There's an
316 and then there's
actual
293 in Munis. I'm looking at Munis, there's,
316 is what we're projecting because it's pulling up in Munis what's actually been done so far.
and that's the 292.
And you can look at
7.
actual also.
That's what I'm looking at.
But the way we did projected, in the past, we just added whatever months were left, even days, of the previous year. This year, we based it on the trend of, if it's trending up,
Hired somebody late in the
we
year.
included that. If it's trending down,
This is
we
probably
included
the
that in, with the rest of the year.
I'm sorry, Jimmy, I didn't know you were looking at the numbers in Munis, but if you see there is a projected column.
I see the projected.
Quit looking at the real numbers, Jimmy. You're confusing us.
We got three numbers for
Throw that
20.
computer away like I did, go back to the next sheet of paper.
Using accurate data.
We got three numbers for
The old
2019,
computer, right?
revised, projected, and original.
So-
And actual,
And actual, 4 columns for 2019, so which one are we working with here? What-
projected.
Yes, the
Exactly.
2019 projected.
You're working with a
That's
column that
correct.
says 316, whatever column that is.
316,
what
that's right.
Salaries are gonna be for 2019
Yes.
when we finish fiscal year.
Yes.
So how close is the revised budget, the 2019 revised budget? We agreed to 428, 876, or did you say that wasn't accurate?
So we're 112 off.
That is,
That's
that,
the budget.
Under.
that's
Yeah,
the
we're-
budget, but
yeah,
that
and
was
we're 17
high.
under budget. This budget, the budgeted number goes down.
That's
So
my
our-
point, that's what I'm saying, we cut in a position. How does the budget number go down for salaries? From 428 to 411?
There
No,
were.
we haven't cut anything.
Right, there's
Uh,
several positions, though, that I don't think got filled until later on in the year.
That's
Is that
true, yeah.
correct?
But the budget
That
was
would-
428.
Yeah, we've
That
had
would be on
vacancies at
projected.
times.
Yeah, but the budget was for everybody completely employed for a whole
For
year.
12 months.
Right.
So how did it go down? So this year's budget is less than what last year's budget was.
You saying, how does that go down if you're adding
If we're adding a part-time.
adding a part-time position?
Right.
I get the projected part, but
I think that whatever the actual is right now, new hires, and do you have seasonal?
I don't,
also?
I do
Okay.
not.
Anyway, but new hires just don't happen the day the budget passes. So it's similar to like merit versus across the board raises. Once that's voted in for an across the board raise, it's on the next paycheck. But merit happens throughout the year, and we've been starting it in May because that's been the annual increase this whole term.
But I don't think that's what's affecting the.
No, but I mean, I'm saying there's a lot of variables that affect it.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, if I could add in too, I think weather has a lot to do with it. Last year, we had 126 rain days. This year has been just hot every single week. And that affects our play. Most of our play is seniors. And when demand is not real high, then we try to operate at lower total wages for the week and just utilize our full-timers to the best of our ability and try to limit part-timers a little bit, which we've done quite a bit.
Yeah, I think there's days where you can have the cart barn open for
Exactly.
Yeah, but that affects revenue, but no, I mean, with all due respect, none of that affects the budgeted
He said
salary.
that the part-time people, he reduces that when it's slow. So that does affect
It
personnel.
affects actuals, doesn't affect budget, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay.
Right, correct.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to figure out, is why the budget number assumes everybody's working the number of
But
hours.
actual is 316.
Last year versus this year, and the number went down, but we're adding somebody. So we're just saying, is there
Well,
a
what-
discrepancy?
This is how, and correct me if I'm wrong, the 316, which was the actual projected 2019, includes the days where he didn't feel like he needed all the part-time help.
Don't look at projected.
Okay,
We're not
so
worried
what
about
we're
projected.
doing in 2020 is you include them all regardless of the weather.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's,
But look at 2019 there, the budget is 429, so we're saying.
Right.
This year's budget's less, but we added somebody.
I'll check on that.
okay.
I will. I
If
don't know
everything's
off the top
constant,
of my
everything
head.
should be constant across the board.
But it's not constant, that's the main thing.
But the budget, it is constant. When you do a budget, it is, you have the same amount of people, same amount of
Snapshot.
everything.
Not in
Everything's-
actuals, because in
I'm not-
actuals,
Don't
he
deal
said.
with, we're not talking about
Right,
actual. We're talking
I'll
about
check it.
the
I don't know off the top of my
Budget,
head.
just the budget.
But I'll
just
check
the budget.
that.
Jill
No
sees
actuals.
it.
Right.
It's
Just
not,
the
it's not a
budget.
big
Yeah.
number. just-
Nothing has changed, except we added a guy concerning last year's budget to this year's budget. But the number went down.
It is safe to say that probably our actuals will always be below budget for this operations.
I would say, I mean, if you look at trends, Mr. Burrell, yeah, certainly, definitely. And Jeff and I do our best to always try to beat it, which we have.
Yeah, we're not trying to say we're not upset with the budget being less than last year, but at the same time, we need
Just want it
to
realistic.
reconcile
Right,
it
and-
because it doesn't, it should be higher.
Exactly. And, you know, I think if you look at your proposed, and if you had perfect scenario, weather every day, demand is going to go up quite a bit as well. And I think the proposed figures would reflect that. But with the trends we've had in weather the last couple of years, it's been really severe. And one major reason, I think, why we're operating the way we are.
And if you go there's, and maybe you can just tell me, and I can go to the notes section, I see a big jump in vehicles and equipment.
That's the only thing.
Right, he's from here to here.
Yeah, as far as 70 to 71,000 or so? Yes, sir. And what that is, we're in our fourth year right now on the golf carts, on the electric carts. At the end of our fourth year, we'll have about 140,000 rounds on 70 golf carts, which is quite a bit, especially for a public venue that has some terrain concerns that you all know about. Here's the scenarios we're kind of looking at here on the golf carts. You could go ahead and reinvest in new batteries. New batteries are about $1,400 per cart, or about $82,000, which is mandatory after 4 years. Or you could go ahead and look at a new lease, possibly on a 4-year lease on 70 cars, which to me would make a lot of sense, because if you do invest in the batteries, you're putting $82,000 in aging carts, where in a year or two, the fleet's going to have to be sold anyway.
I thought we purchased these
We
cars.
did
last time.
purchase,
And
but
so hopefully
this
it was
would
gonna
be-
have
We
some
did.
residual value. So
Oh,
for the
yeah,
past
we're-
4 years, we've had no payments.
Exactly.
But, and we have the payment of what we think we can sell these for that's offsetting the expense.
We have that number?
Yes, yeah, well,
Right.
approximately.
Yeah, approximately.
Well,
Let me
without
see.
batteries, you're looking at about $2,000 a cart, or $140,000.
I think we put in 1,500. Let's see. We might have increased it.
15 would be on the low end.
That's what I'm saying, we did
2,000
low,
on the high
but
end.
we might have
I think we
And
increased
how
it.
much is a new car?
I think we put it
New
in
carts are
revenue,
between
didn't we?
5,400 and 6,000.
So 6 times 7 is 420,000,
So if you're gonna have to
280,000?
get batteries every 4 years, I think having a predictable payment every year, and that's what you're used to
Yes,
also,
ma'am.
and where he's worked in other golf clubs.
And just one side note, we do a lot of repairs on my side of the golf carts. And the tow bar systems and all the steering column systems. Right now, we just had to replace 20 steering columns that EasyGo decided they decided to go ahead and warranty for us, even though we were out of warranty. So there's a lot of expenditure from those types of things. We've spent thousands of dollars fixing these cars that EasyGo decided to do for us. Between that and solenoids and different things that we did not have to pay, So I think that the longer you keep that fleet, the more issues you're gonna have with the tow bar systems.
I think the idea was, you wouldn't break even unless you maybe kept them one more year. And you'd probably be ahead of the game then, because
Right.
if you had to pay 420,000 and you get 140, you're paying 280. Divided by 4 years is 70,000 a year. But if you take the maintenance cost in, then you start falling behind. So you really got to keep them another year, in which case then they get
We don't
more
know what the maintenance
ratted out,
will be.
more expense, and less
Exactly.
value in a year.
Exactly.
Now, is that the entire fleet?
It is.
We would be selling them not as a lot, they would be individual with a minimum, and so I think we'll get even more per
How much-
card.
How many cartridges do you
Correct.
have?
That's how we're doing it, though.
Is that what you're proposing to do?
That's, well, I talked with Richard Johnson, and
Well, I mean, my point, I'm just trying to.
Oh, no, we'll get more
I
money.
think that's for council to say how the property's disposed of.
well, yeah, I mean, when you approve to surplus it, I mean, it's just part of that, but I
And then
think
you
we
say
can
how
get
you do it.
more.
You certainly will, well, you're right. But so if we sold them at 140, and it'd go a long way towards the next 2 years leases.
Absolutely.
It'd be
Sure.
great if we could put that into the account, like some kind of, just a number as a placeholder. All right.
And I just want to say something, just that when you talk about leases, the lease there one is like a copier lease. You rent it for 3 years and you get it back.
Right, I
It's
understand.
different than where you are now, so.
No, I know, we own them now.
But you also would have paid it off in 3 years, correct?
Well, in
Or
3
no?
years, you
No,
just
you
turn
don't
them
own
in.
anything.
You don't own anything.
You're just renting them.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because I know that we have some of them where we own.
Yeah,
it
no,
in.
this is just a
Okay.
a
This is a
paper
rent.
for
Gotcha.
use.
Yep,
It
yep.
is.
So if you sold those golf carts on Gov Deals for $140,000, does that $140,000 go back into golf operations, or does it just
It
end up
goes-
in the general fund?
The proceeds of surplus goes into that department.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, technically, it goes wherever we say it goes. I
Well,
mean, truthfully, it's just
Well,
revenue.
when we're doing expenses and revenue, that's how we do it, just because a lot of times that investment
I would put
is
it in there.
because we're doing that. I mean, that's how we're
But
doing
just because we
it.
sell them doesn't mean it necessarily does that, but I would,
It just makes me feel better.
makes sense.
Well, if we're trading one, surplusing one and buying a new, we like to be able to kind of evaluate that cost. It's all more of a presentation than anything. Everything's in the general fund.
That's,
It's just a tool for budgeting.
I don't really have anything else to pick on. Just that one question about the salaries.
I'll look at that.
You asked for one part-time attendant.
Under this purchase of vehicle, we're looking to buy 10 carts. Does the up-
That's the
The only reason I'm asking that is you went from 14,518 to 71,000, which is an increase of $56,000.
That's the lease payment.
Yeah, it's a lease, yeah.
70,000.
I thought we owned it.
This is for 2020.
Yeah, that would be the
So we
least.
go back to lease.
Yeah, right. The 71,000
We're
or
talking about
so
buying.
would be for the.
No, we were
The
talking
last
about
3
what
years.
is in this budget proposal.
We currently own the carts we have, and they're talking about selling those in Gov Deals and leasing at $70,000 a month, or whatever that number
Mhm.
is.
Yeah, the 70,000 would cover lease payments for all 70 cars for a full year.
I gotta do some ciphering on it, do better, go back to the idea of selling. So we put 140, emergency, I can sell 280 over a 4-year period, instead of $70,000. You understand? I mean,
I understand what you're saying.
the reason I'm like, kind of smiling is because I'm going over this same exact deal. I'm buying a new car, at least a damn new car. You know, what's the final project? What it is? But the lease is for 1 year only, is that correct?
No,
No.
it would be 3 to 4 years.
The lease.
Right.
So
And then at that time,
$71,000 per year.
Yes, sir. Mhm.
Okay.
and at 4 years, you have to replace the batteries.
Right.
Right.
And
that's the
that's why we're at
advantage
this
of having
discussion
the
right
lease,
now. We're at the 4-year mark.
Is there any kind of maintenance program that comes with that, or is it just?
Well, they're, not really. I mean, certain parts are going to be warranted, Jimmy, for the first year, and then from years 2 to 4, 2 to 3, depending on the manufacturer, you're going to have other parts covered, kind of like on an automobile.
But you're not going to
warranty.
get hit, you're not going to get hit with some kind of a surcharge when you return them? You know.
Normally, no, unless the carts were kept in really poor shape, which we do not.
Okay.
You know, so if they were neglected, cart seats ripped up, windshields missing, yes, a surcharge would apply, but in our case, not an issue.
Okay.
And then things we've done in the past from even before this last set of carts we buy, they were pretty dogged out after 4 years of leasing. And I don't think we got hit with any kind of surcharges on that as well.
Now, we lease them, who pays for the mechanic bills? Us or them?
Well, it depends. If it's something that's not under warranty, we buy and pay for it. If it's under warranty, they
Exactly.
pay for
On your
it.
lease program, you got one or the other.
Council, I think we leave as is. There's actually some revenue that from sales of golf carts is not included in here. Make it a little bit better.
Right, the proposal's good.
I mean, it's pretty much, you know, it's really, other than the cart lease that's shown in there is level funding. It's pretty close to
Right there.
Yeah.
That's if you go up, so it's the same thing.
Anybody have a different opinion? No? There's a couple of questions, but if anything, it works to the good, not it works to the black, not to the red. All right, folks, it's a little after 1. We made some pretty good progress. We spent 20 minutes on computers when we started, so.
Yeah.
Do y'all want to just, I mean, not to drag it out, but I'm looking at the golf grounds. You want to just knock
Oh, yeah,
that
yeah,
out?
yeah.
yes, I'm sorry.
We have
Yes,
to.
yes, I was thinking through a golf. Yes, Jim, thank you.
So in Munis, that's 001550.
Yeah. I am currently requesting 1 new hire. And it's kind of like going, you know what Tom did with Marina. You know, I'm having a hard, tough time filling part-time positions. So I'd like to eliminate the 2 part-time positions, which they're probably still in this budget, and hire one full-time person. You just can't find the people to do that. So that's my proposal on that, as far as personnel. Everything else pretty much stays the same on personnel. Another reason behind that is, you know, we have done a better job this year with the 1 seasonal person that I have. And we could almost possibly eliminate that seasonal person too for the year. So we'd be giving up 2 part-time person and 1 seasonal help for the 1 new hire.
Where do we get, how do you have a net here if all you have are expenditures on this budget?
The net is just taking the revenue from page 13 and taking the clubhouse expenditures and the grounds expenditures to get the 721,111.
That's a bad trend that is shown in the budget. 3 years ago, we were losing 271, now we're losing 721.
What are the expenses now? Nothing stacked year to year.
This
Not
minus
too
this
far off,
minus
so
this.
The revenue's going down.
Revenues.
Clubhouse
What
expenditures.
do you mean
Clubhouse
investments?
expenses.
Clubhouse expenses are what's driving that.
Well, all that happened in the capital projects fund. So it's separate from this.
So what, I said that, doing the clubhouse is what I think, that's a $300,000.
Yes, sir.
You add it to the
Right.
expenditures. But basically, but you're pretty close to last year's without the clubhouse.
Right.
Subtract 300 from this,
Why
which is
you
the
subtract
clubhouse.
300?
Huh?
Why is it back to 300?
Because you're not
Subtract
gonna-
it there.
Where's that in there?
You've got improvements that are sitting in the capital projects fund that you,
Yeah, you paid it, that's right.
it's not in golf, it's in the capital projects fund. On page
I mean, everything's pretty much apples to apples as far as.
20.
I think
Two.
that it looks like it's trending that our budget is also higher than what it ends up being. But
He's saying from here to here.
right.
Well, the revenue's down.
Okay, so that's a
Sure.
net on there, that bottom line is a net with the two.
The two
Right.
The two
departments.
columns of
Clubhouse and
expenditures.
grounds,
Right.
Gotcha. And when you're sitting there saying clubhouse and grounds, my mind was thinking actual clubhouse, like the repairs.
Right. That's in a different fund altogether.
Which is in a different section.
Pot of money.
Still over 200,000 over the budget for 2019.
Yeah, right
But
here's
the
the.
grounds expenditures are less budgeted.
Revenues are down 140,000 from what we budgeted last year.
Well, you have to look at actual.
That and the golf carts makes the whole difference, that's it. And revenues are gonna fluctuate in golf like that.
Absolutely.
Can we just level fund revenues like we're gonna do health insurance?
Oh, right.
Because I think it's just coming out of the low.
I think they had $10 for them hammers out there, the food revenue.
All that-
So let's talk about that salaries
Let's
again
take
on
the
the
hammer
grounds.
we got.
Jeff.
Yes, sir.
Do you wanna go over that again? I heard you were saying a lot about cutting this and combining this.
I want to, like I said, we've had a hard time trying to fill a part-time position. It's just the type of work it is. So right now, I've pretty much had 2 part-time positions open year-round. Every time I try to hire somebody, something happens and it doesn't turn out good. So I want to eliminate the 2 part-time positions and eliminate my summer help position to hire 1 full-time person.
And so we're showing okay, that's not much of a net increase over budget. That's only a 30,000 increase.
I figured grade 16 is somewhere around 32,000.
Yeah, it was
something
about
like that.
30,000
Yeah.
in there for that position.
Okay.
Kind of washes out, right?
Yeah.
That's probably another one of those things too, you're hardly ever at 100%. And you see your numbers always come in below budget.
Well, it's like even
Right.
this year on salaries, this year starting out, I mean, it was January before we actually hired a replacement person plus a new person from last year. So there was several months within that.
And in natural attrition, you always have gaps in that.
January.
And I guess that the insurance is going up, the insurance is kind of going up disproportionately because you're eliminating part-time and hiring full-time, which will be giving them benefits.
Yes.
So it's not, you can't just go based on salary, you gotta go
Right.
by position.
Exactly.
I was looking at that number too, that makes sense. You know, I kind of think this one is it's just one of those things, your revenue goes up and down. And then pretty much, you do your best to make an accurate
Yeah,
projection.
certainly, like I mentioned, it's been such a hot year, and, I can plead for people to come out and advertise all I want, but when it's 95 every day, and your average person playing at the golf course is 67, 68, they just don't want to play in the heat.
And your revenue budget is down 136, and I'd much rather under-predict revenue than over-predict it.
Yeah. And it's based on
I appreciate
the
that.
projected actuals.
But I really do, I mean, I
Based
think
on what
I like
2019
looking at realistic.
Right.
I don't like rosy revenue projections that are trying to fit the expenditures.
Right, and that's what, I mean, I looked at the projected actuals.
I'm always happy to see that,
Yeah.
and it's, pretty much in line with the actuals.
Right,
I don't mind showing a little bit better, but it's not showing, oh, we're magically gonna have a 20%
right,
increase in revenue.
exactly. Try to be realistic here.
Yeah, I'm okay with those guys.
I'm good.
Anybody else?
Good stopping point?
Yeah, Kevin, Robert?
No problem. No? You get one $10 hamburger.
And I'll research that, salaries in the
Yeah, there's
clubhouse
just something a
and
little, it's just a
see
number
what that
somebody's keyed
is.
in. I mean, you've only
it's
put in
possible.
10,000 numbers, I know something's gonna be keyed in.
So it's just a.
Yeah,
Not a big
or
deal.
looked at it wrong or something.
Yeah, yeah. 'Cause it
Now I
should
want to get
slide
back into
together.
here. Does that mean it's?
Hey, thank y'all for everybody being here. I know we didn't quite get through everything we wanted, but I actually think we made really good
Oh, I
progress.
think we did. I think we got through everything that was on the schedule.
I have the
Well, it
list
says,
of
you
stuff
said, you didn't say
that-
if time
Yes.
for that, but,
Right.
well, we spent time getting kind of up to speed. So thank you, Mayor. Thank
Well,
you, Jill.
what we were going to
Thank you,
do
Kim.
is go over their
Thank
portion
you
of
very
capital
much.
projects,
Otherwise,
but
I
I
can
think we'll
walk
tackle
over.
capital projects
Be
later.
near a city building or something for them.
All right, yeah, we're adjourned.